This story is titled, My Fiancée Texted Me That Her New Boyfriend Would Be Moving Into My House to Help Me Improve in Bed, with laughing emojis. So I silently packed her things, changed the locks, called him to pick her up from the curb. Next day, my phone blew up with 32 missed calls from them. Sup Reddit. I'm using a throwaway account because this story is still pretty fresh, and I don't need any drama following me back to my main account where I mostly post about video games and pizza reviews. This whole situation has been a complete mess, but I think I handled it the right way given the circumstances. I'm Marcus, 28 years old, and until recently I was dating Jessica, who's 24. We'd been together for about 16 months after meeting during a friend's camping trip. She seemed cute and fun at first, and things just clicked between us. Maybe a little too well, looking back on it now. Jessica had this uncanny ability to become exactly what I wanted in a partner, like some kind of relationship chameleon. That should have been red flag number 1, but my dumbass completely missed it at the time. Things moved pretty quickly between us. She ended up moving into my place about 7 months ago when her rent supposedly got hiked up. At least that's what she told me at the time. I found out later that her roommate had actually kicked her out for constantly borrowing her clothes and jewelry without asking permission. My apartment isn't anything fancy, just a modest one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it's mine, with only my name on the lease. I was paying all the bills, literally every single one of them. Jessica would occasionally toss some money toward utilities or buy groceries now and then, which she'd constantly remind me about as if it counted as paying her fair share of household expenses. But buying Doritos and energy drinks twice a month isn't exactly what I'd call contributing financially to running a household. The first few months seemed good, or at least I thought they were at the time. When you're in the middle of a slow-motion train wreck, sometimes you don't notice the smoke until the whole thing is already on fire. I started noticing some weird patterns about 4 months into our relationship, the kind of stuff that makes you feel crazy for even bringing it up. But there was always this shadow hanging over us. A 6'1" shadow named Tyler. Tyler was Jessica's ex-boyfriend. They had dated for almost 4 years before breaking up about 9 months before we met. And man alive, did I hear about Tyler constantly. It started with what seemed like innocent little things. We'd be watching a movie together and she'd casually mention, "Oh, Tyler and I saw this in theaters. He absolutely hated the ending." Or we'd try a new restaurant and she'd say, "Tyler always said their pizza was overrated, but their wings are fire." When I'd suggest a weekend trip somewhere, she'd get this dreamy look and say, "Tyler and I went there once. It rained the whole time, but we made the best of it." She always got this particular expression when she talked about him. This dreamy little smile, like she was reliving some magical moment from their past. At first, I tried to let it slide. Past relationships come up in conversation sometimes. Whatever. I'm not some insecure teenager who can't handle hearing about someone's dating history. But it kept happening, pretty much daily and sometimes even hourly. One night, about 4 months into our relationship, I finally decided to address it. We were in the kitchen cooking dinner together when she mentioned how Tyler makes the same dish, but with more oregano because he learned the recipe from his Greek grandmother. Then she launched into yet another story about the time they went to Athens together. I couldn't take it anymore. "Hey, can I ask you something?" I said, putting down the spatula and turning to face her directly. "Why do you bring up Tyler so much?" I asked as gently as I could manage. She looked genuinely surprised, like I had just asked her why humans need oxygen to survive. "Do I?" "I don't think I do that," she replied, seeming confused by the question. "You kind of do, like a lot actually," I explained. "We can't seem to go a single day without hearing about Tyler and his superior pasta skills, or Tyler and his amazing travel stories, or Tyler and whatever else he apparently did better than everyone else." Jessica shrugged it off like it was no big deal. "We were together for 4 years, Marcus. He's just part of my history. It doesn't mean anything." She went back to chopping vegetables as if I was being completely ridiculous for bringing it up. I dropped the subject that time, trying to convince myself that maybe I was overreacting. But the Tyler comments didn't stop. If anything, they seemed to increase in frequency. About a month later, we were shopping together when she held up a sweater and said, "Tyler had one like this. It looked really good on him. You might look good in it too." She said it like I was supposed to be flattered by the comparison to her ex-boyfriend. I tried addressing it again. "Seriously, what's with all the Tyler references? It's getting a little weird at this point." This time she got defensive, her eyes flashing with annoyance. "God, are you really that insecure? We're just friends. It's not a big deal." "You're friends?" I asked, surprised. "You still talk to him regularly?" This was completely news to me. Yeah, we text sometimes, so what? We didn't end on bad terms or anything. He's a good guy, she said matter-of-factly. That revelation hit me like a ton of bricks, but I tried to be the cool, understanding boyfriend who doesn't get jealous about exes hanging around. That was my first major mistake, but I was actually getting stressed about the whole situation. I kept going to work, hitting the gym occasionally, and trying to convince myself that everything was fine in our relationship. At the office, Nicole from HR would always say hi when we passed each other in the hallway. Just those 3 simple words. Hey there, Marcus. But her eyes seemed to say more. She'd give me this little smile that made me feel like a human being again, instead of some walking ATM and therapist combination. It's not that I was checking her out or anything. I don't operate like that when I'm in a relationship. But sometimes, when your relationship is slowly turning into a dumpster fire, it's nice to be reminded that normal, sane people still exist in the world. The thing that really started eating at me was how Jessica would act all lovey-dovey on social media, but be completely different in real life. She'd post pictures of us together with captions like, "My forever person," and heart emojis, but then spend our actual anniversary dinner texting constantly under the table. She'd act wounded and disappointed when I didn't buy her expensive gifts, but never seemed to remember anything important about my life. This woman couldn't name my 2 best friends after being together for over a year, but she expected me to memorize her entire extended family's birthdays and important dates. About 6 months into living together, I realized something truly depressing. I was genuinely happier when she wasn't home. When Jessica was gone, I could actually relax, watch whatever I wanted, eat what I wanted, and not worry about accidentally saying the wrong thing and triggering an hour-long argument about how I never supported her dreams. Those dreams changed weekly, by the way. One week it was opening her own pottery studio. The next week she wanted to become a fitness influencer. I started working late just to have some peace and quiet. I volunteered for weekend shifts, anything to avoid being home alone with her and that weird tension that seemed to fill every room. My buddy Derek noticed the change and asked if everything was okay. I gave him some excuse about saving up for a vacation, but I think he knew something was up. He'd been through something similar with his ex a couple of years back, so he probably recognized the signs. Then came the night that changed everything. I was in the kitchen making chicken teriyaki. Nothing fancy, just trying to throw together something decent for dinner after a long-ass day at work. I'm no chef, but I can handle the basics without burning the place down. I was trying out this new sauce I'd found at the local Asian market. The old lady who owned the place had practically forced me to buy it, insisting it would change my cooking forever. She wasn't wrong about that. I was focusing intently on not overcooking the vegetables. I'd learned that lesson the hard way before, when Jessica came home from her yoga class. She was still in her workout clothes with her phone in hand as usual. She seemed particularly energetic that evening, almost giddy, which struck me as odd. She wasn't even sweaty, which was weird for someone who supposedly just finished 50 minutes of intense yoga. "Hey babe," she said casually, grabbing a piece of broccoli from my cutting board. "So I need to talk to you about something." Those words never lead to anything good, ever in the history of relationships. I've learned that much about life. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my eyes focused on the wok. I'd stopped dropping everything to give her my full attention months ago after realizing it was always some minor drama or complaint that could have absolutely waited until I finished what I was doing. "So there's this situation with one of my friends," she began, scrolling through her Instagram like this was the most casual conversation in the world. "His landlord is selling the building, and everyone has to be out by the end of the month. He's having trouble finding a new place because everything's so expensive right now." I could sense exactly where this conversation was heading. I put the spatula down slowly, feeling like I was in one of those movies where everything starts moving in slow motion right before the disaster hits. "He needs a place to crash for a bit," she continued, literally not even looking at me while suggesting we add another human being to our living situation. "Just until he finds something new. A month, maybe 2 tops." "You want a friend to move in with us?" I asked, keeping my voice as neutral as possible, even though internally every alarm bell was going off. "Who exactly are we talking about here?" She hesitated for just a second, and that little pause told me everything I needed to know. "It's someone you've heard me mention before," she mumbled, suddenly becoming fascinated by her fingernails. I raised an eyebrow and waited. "Who?" She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, clearly uncomfortable. "Just a friend from before," she said vaguely. I didn't say a word. I just stared at her and waited for the truth. Finally, she sighed like I was being unreasonable for dragging this information out of her. Tyler, she muttered, barely above a whisper. There it was. The ghost she had sworn was dead and buried in her past. Tyler, I repeated, making sure she could hear the weight in my voice. As in your ex-boyfriend, Tyler? Yeah, but he's just a friend now, obviously, she said way too quickly, like she was trying to outrun the obvious implications. Listen, he's super quiet and super respectful. You might actually learn something from him. He's amazing at fixing stuff around the house. And honestly, his cooking makes yours look like struggle meals. No offense. She gave me this bright fake smile like she was doing me some kind of favor instead of trying to sneak her ex-boyfriend into my apartment, like some kind of Trojan horse with better recipes. But the way she said it, like it wasn't a big deal at all. Like trying to move your ex-boyfriend into your current boyfriend's apartment was totally normal Wednesday evening behavior. That's what really got to me. Why didn't you mention that part first? I asked. And why are you making this decision without even asking me? This is my apartment. Our apartment, she corrected, which was complete nonsense since my name was the only one on the lease, and I paid 100% of the rent and about 95% of everything else. I wanted to snap right then and there to just unload everything I'd been holding in for months. Every lie, every excuse, every fake girls' night she'd used as a smokescreen. But then I looked at her standing there, so confidently detached from reality, genuinely believing that this was a reasonable request. Like moving her ex-boyfriend in wasn't the kind of thing that should completely shatter a relationship. That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. She didn't see this as a real relationship anymore. Not really. To her, this had become nothing more than a convenient living arrangement with benefits. I wasn't her partner. I was background noise with a wallet. And no amount of talking or reasoning was going to bring her back down to earth. So I don't know what came over me, but I just said, okay. I knew right then and there that I was completely done with her. But I wanted to see how far she'd take this charade. I wanted to see exactly how much she thought she could get away with. Sometimes you have to let people show you exactly who they really are. She looked surprised for a second, then broke into this huge grin. Really? That's great! You're the best, she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. I'll let him know right away. He's actually thinking about bringing some of his stuff over tomorrow if that works. I'm going to jump in the shower, she announced, already heading toward the bathroom. As she walked away, I noticed she was already typing frantically on her phone. No doubt she was telling Tyler the good news. Her thumbs were moving so fast, you'd think she was trying to disarm a bomb or something. I just stood there in the kitchen feeling weirdly calm, despite the fact that my relationship had essentially just exploded in my face. For the next hour, I mechanically finished making dinner while she showered and got ready. My mind was racing, but I was already planning my next move. She came out of the bathroom in fresh clothes and grabbed a plate of the teriyaki I'd made. No thank you for cooking, no offer to help with the dishes afterward. She just took the food like it was her birthright. This is pretty good, she said between bites, sounding genuinely surprised that I'd managed to make something edible. Oh, and Tyler might swing by later tonight to check out the living room situation. Is that cool? The audacity, the absolute brass balls on this woman. Here I was thinking we had at least until tomorrow to figure things out, and she was already inviting him over for a house tour. Tomorrow, right? Not tonight? I asked, trying to keep my voice level and not betray what I was really thinking. No, tomorrow probably, she said dismissively. Hey, I'm going to run to Walmart to pick up a few things. Then I'm meeting Lisa for drinks. Don't wait up for me. She kissed me on the cheek again and was out the door before I could even respond. I heard her car start up and pull out of the parking lot. Something inside me just snapped at that moment. I immediately called Lisa right after Jessica left, just to confirm what I already suspected in my gut. Hey Marcus, what's up? Lisa answered, sounding surprised to hear from me directly. Are you meeting Jessica for drinks tonight? I asked point blank, not bothering with small talk. The pause that followed told me absolutely everything I needed to know. No, I haven't talked to her since last weekend, actually, Lisa admitted. Great. Thanks, that's all I needed to know, I said before hanging up. I stared down at my half-eaten teriyaki congealing on my plate. Well, there it was. The final nail in the coffin of what I had thought was a serious relationship. She wasn't even trying to hide the lies anymore. She was just operating on autopilot because it was easier than telling the truth about wherever she was really going. The moment her car pulled out of the parking lot, I checked the time. 7:18 p.m. She usually spent at least an hour wandering around Walmart, plus her supposed drinks with Lisa, which I now knew was code for hanging out with Tyler. meant I had at least 2 or 3 hours minimum before she'd be back. I had plenty of time, but it was better to be safe than sorry. I stood in the middle of my kitchen and made my decision. This ends tonight. Not tomorrow after some big dramatic confrontation, not after more lies and manipulation. Right now. I grabbed several storage bins from the hall closet and started with her clothes. I wasn't carefully folding anything or treating her belongings with special care. I just grabbed armfuls of her stuff and stuffed it all in. Her precious $250 designer jeans went in right along with her discount tank tops. Her special occasion dresses got crammed in with the gym clothes she barely ever used. I almost accidentally tossed in my favorite hoodie before remembering it was actually mine. She just wore it so often that it had been living in her dresser drawer. She had somehow taken over 3 of my dresser drawers despite originally moving in with barely 2 suitcases worth of clothes. Funny how that works. People just expand to fill whatever space you give them. I checked the time again. 7:35 p.m. I was moving too slowly and needed to pick up the pace in case she decided to come back earlier than expected. In the bathroom, I swept all of her makeup, face washes, and hair products into another bin. There were literally dozens of half-used bottles of serums and expensive creams, most of them still with the price tags attached. Her fancy rose quartz face roller that had cost $85 went in there too. I remembered how she would always hide it whenever her friends called, because God forbid Tyler found out she'd spent that much money on a piece of rock to rub on her face. I found her jewelry box tucked behind my gaming consoles, which was weird because she always claimed to never know where anything was when I asked. Inside wasn't just her jewelry, but also a couple of pieces I didn't recognize, including a man's watch that definitely wasn't my style or my size. I tossed it all into the bin without looking too closely. While I was packing her stuff into bins like expired groceries, I started calling locksmiths between loads. The first 2 were a bust, either booked solid or not working evenings. The third one finally agreed to help, but only with a steep emergency after-hours fee of $280 just to show up. It was basically daylight robbery, but considering my situation, it was worth every single cent. He said he could be there in 50 minutes. I gave him my address and went right back to packing her things. By 8:25 p.m., I had managed to gather most of her belongings into 3 storage bins, 2 suitcases, and a garbage bag full of shoes. I definitely missed some things. After 7 months of living together, her stuff was scattered everywhere throughout my apartment. But I got all the obvious items. The things she'd actually care about getting back. Her precious collection of Bath and Body Works candles that she never actually lit but constantly kept buying went into the bins. The stack of self-help books that she displayed prominently but never actually read got packed up too. Those ridiculous throw pillows she'd insisted we absolutely needed, despite them making the couch practically unusable for actually sitting, all went in as well. While searching under the bed, I found a shoebox that had been hidden back there. I was curious, so I opened it up. Inside was a collection of ticket stubs, photos, and what looked like love letters. Curious about what she'd been keeping, I opened one of the letters. It was dated only 4 months ago, well into our relationship, and it was signed, "Forever yours, Tyler, see you soon." That went straight into the bin without any hesitation. I didn't have time to process that particular pain right now, but it confirmed everything I already suspected about what had really been going on. I checked my phone again. No text from Jessica yet. That was probably for the best, considering what I was in the middle of doing. The locksmith showed up right on schedule at 9 p.m. The guy took one look at all the packed bags lined up by my door and gave me this knowing look that told me he'd seen this exact scenario before. "Rough night?" he asked while setting up his tools. "Long time coming," I replied simply. I showed him my lease agreement and my ID to prove that I had every legal right to change the locks on my own apartment. He nodded approvingly and got straight to work. "Women, huh?" he commented while installing the new deadbolt. I didn't respond to that generalization. This wasn't about women in general. This was specifically about Jessica and her lies, about the person I thought I knew turning out to be someone completely different underneath it all. Tony worked efficiently and mostly in silence after that, probably thinking I was in some kind of emotional shock. Maybe I was, honestly. By 9:35 p.m., the new locks were completely installed and I had 2 shiny new keys in my hand. I paid him the agreed-upon amount and added a $60 tip because I genuinely appreciated him coming out so quickly on short notice. Also, if I'm being completely honest, I wanted him to remember me favorably in case the police ended up asking questions later. It wasn't my proudest thought, but you have to be strategic during crisis situations. As soon as Tony left, I started the process of carrying all the bins and bags down to the curb. It took me 4 separate trips up and down the stairs, and I was constantly checking my phone the entire time to make sure Jessica wasn't on her way back yet. One of my neighbors definitely saw me from her balcony during one of the trips, but Mrs. Thompson just gave me a little understanding nod. I think she'd witnessed Jessica sneaking out at odd hours enough times over the past few months to put 2 and 2 together. Mrs. Thompson was a former middle school principal with eyes like a hawk. She didn't miss much of anything that went on in our building. I arranged everything as neatly as possible on the curb. I'm not a complete monster, after all. Then I took a photo of the entire pile with my phone for documentation purposes. Now came the hard part. I needed Tyler's phone number, and I had a pretty good idea of how to get it. I went to my laptop where Jessica had logged into her Google account months ago and never bothered logging out. I scrolled through her contacts list until I found Tyler, though he was listed under a different last name than what she'd mentioned to me once before. He was cleverly listed under her work contacts section, even though they definitely didn't work together. She was definitely more manipulative than I'd given her credit for. His phone number was right there, just waiting to be used. I sent him the photo I'd taken of all her belongings on the curb, along with a simple message. Jessica's moving in with you now. Her things are at my place. She said you'd be thrilled to have her. I hit send at 10:08 p.m. There was still plenty of time before she'd be back from her supposed Walmart run and her fictional drinks with Lisa. I went back inside, carefully locked both of the new locks, and sat down on my couch. My hands were actually shaking from the adrenaline. It's weird how that works. You can feel completely calm and rational in your head, but your body knows you're operating in full fight or flight mode. For about 25 minutes, absolutely nothing happened. The apartment felt weirdly quiet without her constant presence. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, my neighbor's TV playing through the thin wall, and a car alarm going off somewhere in the distance. It was actually kind of peaceful. Then my phone completely erupted. 20 missed calls, 11 voicemails, and 35 text messages all within the span of about 10 minutes. I scrolled through them, watching the progression from confusion to anger to full-blown panic. Marcus, what is wrong with you? Answer your phone right now. Are you insane? My stuff is on the street. I'm coming home right now. You're going to regret this? Tyler is freaking out. You can't do this. My clothes are outside. It might rain. This is crazy. I'm calling the police right now. This is illegal. That last text made my stomach drop completely. Could she really get me in legal trouble for this? Was what I'd done technically an illegal eviction? I put my phone on silent mode and tried to focus on breathing normally. This was going to be a very long night, and I needed to stay calm and rational. I tried calling Derek, who's in his final year of law school, but it went straight to voicemail. Great. The one time I actually needed legal advice from the guy who constantly tries to explain obscure contract law at parties, and he was unavailable. I paced around my apartment, jumping at every little sound and half expecting to hear police sirens pulling up outside at any moment. Around 11:25 p.m., the pounding started on my door. Not polite knocking, aggressive pounding that made the entire door shake in its frame and probably woke up half the building. Marcus, open this door right now! Jessica screamed from the hallway. I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there with mascara running down her face, looking like a raccoon that had been caught in a flood. Tyler was standing behind her, looking deeply uncomfortable in his carefully pressed button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up just so. He kept glancing around nervously like he wanted to be literally anywhere else in the world. He was a tall guy, conventionally handsome, I suppose, with that meticulously styled, I don't care about my hair look that probably takes him 50 minutes to achieve every morning. He looked exactly like the kind of guy who would have a secret bathroom camera, if I'm being honest. Marcus, I know you're in there! Jessica continued shouting. This is my home too! I took a deep breath before responding through the door. Jessica, this is my apartment. My name is on the lease. You decided that your ex-boyfriend was moving in without being honest about who he actually was. I didn't agree to that arrangement. Your belongings are outside. Please leave. You can't do this! I have rights! She screamed back. You're not on the lease, and you don't pay rent, I replied, keeping my voice as calm and factual as possible. Those are just the simple facts of the situation. I'll sue you! I'll tell everyone what an abusive asshole you are! I'll ruin your entire life! She threatened. My actual thoughts at that moment were genuinely terrifying. What if I had really messed up legally? What if she could actually destroy my life over this? I've seen those horror stories on Reddit where guys get absolutely demolished by the legal system, even when they weren't technically in the wrong. The possibility of that happening to me was keeping my anxiety at maximum levels. Tyler finally spoke up for the first time. Jessica, come on, let's just go. We can figure this whole thing out tomorrow when everyone's calmed down. He sounded tired, and maybe even a little embarrassed by the entire situation. I found myself wondering if this was how Jessica operated in all of her relationships. Constantly creating drama, pitting people against each other, always positioning herself as the victim no matter what the circumstances were. Don't tell me what to do! She screamed at him, then turned her attention back to my door. Marcus, you have until the count of 3 to open this door. 1, 2... I stayed completely silent. What exactly was she planning to do when she got to 3? Break down the door? Call in an airstrike? The whole threat was completely empty. Fine! You asked for this! She declared dramatically. I'm calling 911 right now! I heard her dialing and then launching into what can only be described as an Oscar-worthy performance. She told the dispatcher a tearful story about how her boyfriend had thrown her out onto the street and she was afraid for her safety and didn't know where she was going to sleep that night. If lying was an Olympic sport, Jessica would have gold medals lining every wall of her apartment. After about 18 more minutes of threats, pounding, and increasingly creative insults, one of my neighbors finally yelled, "Shut up out there, or I'm calling the cops myself." Tyler somehow managed to pull Jessica away from my door, though I could hear her protesting the entire way down the hallway. The last thing I heard was her shouting, "This isn't over, Marcus!" I barely slept at all that night. I kept jumping at every single sound, fully expecting the police to show up at my door at any minute. Derek, in case you're reading this somehow, I literally played out every possible scenario in my head. Being arrested, having to explain to my boss why I missed work because I was sitting in jail, trying to figure out how to afford a lawyer on my limited savings. Good times all around. Around 12:45 a.m., Jessica's friend, Lisa, called me. I almost didn't answer because I figured it was probably Jessica using Lisa's phone to continue harassing me, but I decided to risk it. Marcus, what the hell happened tonight? Lisa asked immediately. Jessica just called me crying her eyes out, saying you threw all her stuff onto the street and changed the locks on her. I was exhausted, but I explained the situation as clearly as I could. She told me tonight that her ex-boyfriend Tyler was moving in with us. She pretended he was just some random friend until I called her out on it. Turns out she's been hiding their ongoing relationship for months. I'm not okay with that, Lisa. Lisa was quiet for a long moment, processing what I'd told her. Wait, she said slowly. Tyler was moving in, and she just told you this without asking your permission first? Yep. And she's been talking to him behind your back this whole time? That's right. Okay, wow. That's really messed up, Marcus. I always wondered why she'd leave our girls' nights early to supposedly run errands. But throwing her stuff out like that's pretty extreme, don't you think? What was I supposed to do, Lisa? Just let her ex-boyfriend move into my apartment after she's been lying to me for months? She sighed heavily. I don't know. This whole situation is just a complete mess. But be careful, okay? She's saying she's going to get you in trouble legally. That phone call didn't help my anxiety levels at all. But it was interesting that Lisa seemed more surprised by Jessica's behavior than by mine. It made me wonder if Jessica had a history of pulling this kind of manipulative garbage that I didn't know about. After we hung up, I took a sleeping pill and passed out on the couch. I didn't want to sleep in the bed we'd shared together. It felt tainted somehow, like everything else she'd touched in my life. The next morning, I woke up to even more text messages, this time demanding that I let Jessica back into the apartment to get her essential items. Her list of supposedly essential things was absolutely ridiculous and included items like the TV because we picked it out together. For the record, I bought that TV while she pointed at the biggest one in the store and said, "That one." She also claimed she needed her work laptop, which was actually sitting at her office. She'd been complaining just last week about having to lug it back and forth every day. Other items on her essential list included the vintage record player, which had been a birthday gift from my brother to me, and her important financial documents. That last one actually concerned me because those could legitimately be important. She also mentioned needing her emotional support plant, which was a cactus I'd owned for 4 years before I even met her, and my grandmother's jewelry, even though her grandmother was very much alive and living in Tampa. The financial documents worried me the most. What if I'd accidentally missed something genuinely important while I was frantically packing her stuff? I texted her back. I packed what I could find that belonged to you. If there are specific essential items you actually need, send me a detailed list through someone else, and I'll check if they're here. I can leave anything legitimate with the building manager for you to pick up, but you are absolutely not coming back inside this apartment." Her response was a long string of nasty insults that would make a sailor blush. She had some particularly creative things to say about my mother, my manhood, and my future prospects of ever finding someone who could tolerate being around me. I blocked her number after reading that. Life's genuinely too short to deal with that level of toxicity. Around noon, Derek finally called me back, thank God. He'd just woken up and seen all my missed calls from the night before. "Dude, I just saw your calls. What's going on? Are you okay?" he asked, sounding concerned. I gave him the complete rundown. Jessica trying to move Tyler in, me packing her stuff, her completely losing it and threatening legal action. I was trying to sound calm and rational, but my voice was all over the place because I was still stressed about potential consequences. Derek listened to everything, then gave me the kind of half-reassuring, half-concerning legal breakdown that only a law student could deliver. The good news was that Jessica wasn't on the lease, so that worked in my favor. The bad news was that these kinds of self-help evictions could potentially get messy, especially if she could somehow prove she'd been living there long enough to claim some sort of tenant rights. He asked me all the basic questions. How long had she been there? Did she get mail delivered to my address? Had she paid any bills? I told him it had been about 7 months. That yes, mail came to my apartment for her, and while she didn't pay rent, she had occasionally thrown some cash toward utilities and groceries, though nothing regular or documented. Derek said it was probably fine, especially considering that she had tried to sneak her ex-boyfriend into the place without my permission, which was clearly a safety issue. Still, he warned me that there was a slim chance things could get legally complicated. He told me to document absolutely everything. Every text message, every screenshot, especially any messages where she had mentioned bringing Tyler into the living situation. And if the police did show up, I should stay calm, show them the lease, and explain that it was a safety issue, not just a relationship dispute. It wasn't exactly the solid, "you're totally in the clear" reassurance I was hoping for, but it was better than nothing. At least I had some idea of how to handle things if they escalated further. I spent the next few days jumping at every single knock on my door, convinced it would be police officers coming to haul me away. I even started ordering food delivery and telling them to just leave everything at the door because I was too paranoid to open it and potentially face whatever consequences were waiting for me. Around noon on the second day, Tyler actually texted me, which was surprising. His message was surprisingly civil compared to Jessica's unhinged rants. "Hey man, Jessica says there's some important stuff of hers still at your place. Can you check when you have time?" There was no apology for the situation, but at least he wasn't threatening to destroy my life or calling me creative names. I spent some time searching through what was left of Jessica's belongings, mostly random junk she'd left scattered in various drawers and cabinets throughout my apartment. I managed to find a folder containing some banking statements and her passport, which were legitimately important documents. I also discovered a framed photo of her and Tyler that she'd kept hidden in her nightstand drawer, which was a special kind of messed up, considering she'd been sleeping next to it every night while dating me. I put all the legitimate items in a manila envelope and left it with the building manager, just as I'd promised. Tyler picked it up the next day, and according to my building manager, he seemed genuinely embarrassed by the entire situation and could barely make eye contact. Good. At least one person involved in this disaster had the decency to feel awkward about what had happened. After 5 full days of tense waiting and checking over my shoulder constantly, no police officers had shown up at my door. I started to breathe a little easier. Maybe Jessica had been bluffing about the legal threats, or maybe even the cops didn't want to deal with this level of relationship drama. But then a week later, the real bomb dropped. I ran into Lisa at the coffee shop near my work. Total coincidence. I was grabbing my usual black coffee with an extra shot of espresso, and she happened to be in line right ahead of me. "Marcus! Holy shit, have you heard what's going on with Tyler?" she said, looking both horrified and like she was absolutely dying to share some major gossip. "No. What happened?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I wasn't going to like whatever she was about to tell me. "So, my roommate's sister works with this girl who used to date Tyler's old roommate," Lisa began. And I could already tell this was going to be one of those convoluted but important stories. Apparently, Tyler got kicked out of his previous place because he was caught setting up his phone to secretly record his roommate's girlfriend in the bathroom. The roommate beat the absolute tar out of him and threw him out on the spot. And here's the worst part. Somehow the video got leaked, and now Tyler is featured in this group chat where women warn each other about creeps and predators. My stomach completely dropped. Are you being serious right now? Dead serious. That's the real reason he needed a place to stay. It was a total lie about his landlord selling the building. He's a straight-up pervert, Marcus. She pulled out her phone and continued, but wait, it gets worse. Someone tagged Jessica in one of these warning threads yesterday, exposing Tyler and everything he did. She knows exactly what kind of person he is now, Marcus. Lisa showed me the post on her phone. There it was, clear as day. Jessica had been tagged with a comment that read, "This girl is still defending him even after everything came out. Watch out for her too." I felt physically sick, but also incredibly relieved at the same time. I had dodged way more than just an annoying roommate situation. I had narrowly avoided having a legitimate predator living in my home, potentially setting up cameras in my own bathroom. Have you talked to Jessica about any of this? I asked Lisa. Lisa rolled her eyes in disgust. She's claiming it's all just a big misunderstanding and that Tyler is actually the victim of some jealous ex-girlfriend's revenge plot. But Marcus, there are like 6 different women who have come forward with stories about him having hidden cameras in bathrooms and changing rooms. There are actual receipts, screenshots, police reports, the whole 9 yards. And she's still standing by him like he's some kind of innocent victim. I immediately took a screenshot of one of the posts Lisa showed me and sent it straight to Derek, just to have legal documentation of what kind of situation I had actually avoided. His reply came back almost instantly, basically confirming that I had dodged a complete disaster. If Tyler had actually moved into my apartment, it would have been an absolute nightmare involving hidden cameras and God knows what else. During this entire conversation, Nicole happened to walk by our table. "Hey there, Marcus," she said with that same warm smile, just those 3 simple words. But her eyes seemed to say so much more. I smiled back, and Lisa definitely noticed the interaction but didn't comment on it. Thank God. As word about Tyler's true nature spread throughout Jessica's social circle, her support system crumbled faster than a sandcastle at high tide. According to Lisa, even the people who had initially thought I was the bad guy in this whole situation started backing away from Jessica once they learned about Tyler's disturbing hobby of secretly recording women. 3 days after Lisa had shown me those posts about Tyler, Jessica called me from yet another new phone number, screaming at the top of her lungs. But this time, she wasn't angry because she thought she was some innocent victim. She was furious because she was now publicly linked to him online, and the association was destroying her reputation. "This is all your fault!" she screamed into the phone. "People are tagging me in these posts. My boss saw one of them. I might get fired because of this." "Sounds like that's your problem to deal with," I replied calmly before hanging up on her. It wasn't my proudest moment, but I had completely run out of patience for her victim act. She had made her choice to defend a predator, and now she was dealing with the consequences of that decision. Jessica kept trying to contact me through random phone numbers, mutual friends, and she even had her little sister message me on Instagram. I blocked every single attempt. Did I feel bad about it? Absolutely not. According to Lisa, who had somehow become my unexpected source of intelligence in this whole saga, Jessica and Tyler had initially been staying with Jessica's older sister, Megan. But when one of Megan's coworkers sent her the story about the bathroom recordings, she completely lost it. Megan waited until Jessica and Tyler went out for tacos one evening. Then she changed all her locks while they were gone. She left all their belongings in garbage bags on the front porch with a note that simply said, "Perverts not welcome here." It was harsh, but I couldn't really blame her for not wanting that kind of toxicity in her home. After getting kicked out of Megan's place, they crashed with Tyler's college buddy for a few days. That arrangement lasted exactly until his girlfriend found out about the bathroom video scandal and immediately kicked them both out. The girlfriend apparently didn't even give them time to pack properly. She just threw their stuff on the lawn and told them never to come back. The last I heard through the gossip network, Jessica and Tyler were actually sleeping in her car, which had to be incredibly uncomfortable for someone Tyler's size. I honestly couldn't have happened to a nicer couple. And throughout this entire ordeal, the police never showed up at my apartment building. I had let Tyler pick up one final box of Jessica's belongings, some random mail, a few books she'd left behind, and her backup hair straightener through the building manager because I had no desire to see either of their faces ever again. About 3 weeks after the Great Lockout incident, my buddy Kevin called me with some disturbing news. "Dude, have you seen what Jessica's been posting about you online? It's absolutely wild, he said, sounding both concerned and fascinated by the drama. I hadn't bothered checking her social media accounts since the whole thing went down. I figured that would just be inviting more unnecessary drama into my life, and I was finally starting to feel some peace. But I was curious about what kind of lies she'd been fabricating to save face. I haven't looked. What's she saying? I asked. You might want to think about getting ahead of this situation, man. Let me show you, Kevin said. I used Kevin's phone to look at her profiles, and what I saw was genuinely disturbing. It was bad, really, really bad. She had written multiple posts calling me abusive, controlling, and mentally unstable. She was making claims that I had been monitoring her phone, isolating her from her friends, and even threatening her physically. Every single word was a complete fabrication, but it was all written so convincingly that people who didn't know the real story might actually believe her version of events. This is absolutely insane, I said, handing Kevin's phone back to him. None of this ever happened, not even close. I know, man. That's exactly why I'm showing you this. You might want to think about protecting yourself legally, he replied. Kevin was absolutely right. I immediately took screenshots of everything she had posted and downloaded our entire text message history, which clearly showed her plans to move Tyler into my apartment without my permission. I sent all of it to Derek for safekeeping. I wasn't planning to take any legal action unless she escalated the situation further, but it was definitely better to be prepared than sorry. According to what Lisa reluctantly shared with me, though she clearly enjoyed being the bearer of gossip, Jessica and Tyler were living in what could only be described as complete hell. They couldn't find anywhere stable to stay because the bathroom video scandal followed them literally everywhere they tried to go. Her parents had refused to take them in because her father had never liked Tyler in the first place, and now he had concrete reasons to justify his instincts. Jessica had lost her job at the marketing firm when her boss found out about the bathroom recording situation. Apparently, the company had some major clients who worked closely with women's shelters and domestic violence organizations, so they couldn't afford to have someone associated with a predator representing their brand. Her car had been repossessed the week before because she couldn't make the monthly payments without steady income. She had been essentially blacklisted across social media platforms, with people tagging her as a creep defender on every post she tried to make. The internet has a long memory, and once you're associated with something like this, it's incredibly difficult to escape the consequences. Jessica sent me one final email from a brand new email address, since I had blocked her everywhere else. She was claiming that I had completely destroyed her life and ruined her reputation, and she was demanding money for emotional distress and emergency housing costs. The email was long, rambling, and filled with the same victim mentality that had characterized our entire relationship. I deleted the email without even finishing reading it. As far as I was concerned, she had made her bed and now she could lie in it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's been about a month now since what my friends have started calling the Great Bin Eviction, and I can honestly say I have zero regrets about how I handled the situation. Not a single one. Life has been looking up for me in ways I didn't even expect. Yesterday, I finally worked up the courage to ask someone if she wanted to grab dinner after work. I'll let you guess who that someone was. Nicole said yes, and we've been texting nonstop ever since. It's honestly crazy how different it feels to have conversations with someone who's actually normal and stable. No mind games, no hidden agendas, no manipulation tactics. Just genuine conversation with another human being who isn't constantly trying to get something from me. My friends took me out to celebrate what they called my freedom from Jessica. Derek admitted that he had never actually liked her, but hadn't wanted to say anything while we were together because he didn't want to interfere in my relationship. Kevin said she had always given him a weird, uncomfortable vibe whenever they interacted. Even my mom, who always tries to see the good in everyone and gives people the benefit of the doubt, simply said, "I'm glad you're happy again, Marcus," in a tone that spoke volumes about what she really thought of Jessica. This whole experience taught me some genuinely valuable lessons about setting boundaries, maintaining self-respect, and trusting my gut instincts when something feels wrong. When someone shows you exactly who they are, you should believe them the first time instead of making excuses for their behavior. And when someone tries to move their creepy ex-boyfriend into your apartment after lying to you for months, sometimes the best response is to change the locks and let them figure out their own problems. So that's my story, Reddit. I honestly don't care if some people think I'm the asshole in this situation. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out, and you just have to help it find the door.